So I'm just going to give you a little bit of an introduction of what Startup Grind is so that you guys can have an idea of who we are and what we do so that you can send us the relevant inquiries because we always get emails, people sending us emails thinking that we are in a business that we're actually not in. So basically Startup Grind is the largest independent startup community actively educating, inspiring, and connecting more than 1.5 million entrepreneurs in over 500 chapters. We nurture startup ecosystems in 130 countries through events, media, and partnerships with organizations like Google for Startups. The cornerstone of our global community are monthly events featuring successful local founders, innovators, educators, and investors who share lessons learned on the road to building great companies. Founded in Silicon Valley, Startup Grind has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses, connect with strategic partners, and secure funding. Our values are: we believe in making friends and not contacts. We believe in giving and not taking. And we believe in helping others before helping ourselves. So the conversation doesn't end here. You guys can follow us on Twitter. Use the hashtag StartUpGrindJHB. Some of you have probably seen it on your name tags. Just use the hashtag there. And whatever that we're going to be talking about throughout the evening, you can use the hashtag to carry it through. And also, if there's one who is going to be tweeting non-stop, they stand a chance to win access to Startup Grind Johannesburg. Not Startup Grind other chapters, because there's a lot of chapters in and around the world. So if you've been tweeting a lot, and we actually do see that you are giving us a lot of love on social media, we'll give you access to attend our events for 12 months. So the hashtag again is StartUpGrindJHB. And Startup Grind wouldn't be what we are if it wasn't because of our amazing sponsors. One, which is Impelo, the nice building that we at. It's actually a co-working space. Morgan, do you want to just quickly tell us more about what Impelo does and how people can get involved if they maybe want to sign up? And yeah, so please give Morgan a hand.
I'm still like a little bit sick, so I'm so sorry about my voice. So Impelo is a co-working space. We host hot desks, virtual desks, as well as dedicated desks for more permanent companies. Startups come for 3 days or 24/7, depending on what packages we offer. So you guys are more than welcome to come talk to me afterwards. We also rent out boardrooms for if you need a meeting, and event space for events like these. So if you guys wanted to come talk to me afterwards, I can give you a promo package, that the packages that we offer.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Morgan. And I also just want to give a shout out to our partners. We have Red, Green, Blue Creatives. They are the guys that are helping us with the film. All the YouTube videos that you see on our YouTube channel, they're created by them, very beautiful. Do like them, do share them with some of the people that are on your social media as well. Really appreciate it when you do that. And then we've got AC Photography. They help us with the amazing pictures that you always see on Facebook and Instagram. And then we've got Len helping us with the sound. And we have Sir Juice. Unfortunately, they couldn't give us juice tonight because last week they got robbed. So as you know, there's always different types of juice that they always bring us. But I hope next month they will be able to provide us with some juice. But otherwise, we'll still give them some love. And yeah, also, if there's anything that you think we might be helping you guys with, send us an email. If you go to our website, www.startupgrind.com/Johannesburg, send an inquiry, any question that you have, I'll be able, it comes directly to me, I'll be able to respond as soon as I can. And if there's any speaker that you want to recommend, if there's anyone that you want to see on stage as a guest speaker, let me know as well. Always helps because all of this, we're actually doing it for you. And that's that. And before we go on, are you guys ready for tonight's event? I'm sure you're like, oh no, she talks a lot, just get straight to the point. Are you guys ready for tonight's guest? Yes. Are you guys ready for tonight's guest? Okay. So tonight we are hosting Allan Raiz. Allan is regarded as both locally and globally as a pioneer and maverick in the business incubation industry. He is the founder and CEO of Raiz Corp, which, according to The Economist, is the only genuine incubator in Africa and which currently supports over 500 businesses. In 2008, Raiz was recognized as a young global leader by the World Economic Forum, and in 2011, he was invited to become a member of the Global Agenda Council on Fostering Entrepreneurship. Allan is currently hosting his 8th season of the popular The Big Small Business Show on Business Day TV and is a regular columnist on the Entrepreneur magazine. Please welcome Allan. Good evening.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, good. How are you?
Good, good. Welcome to Startup Grind Joburg.
Thank you.
Is this your first time at Startup Grind? At any Startup Grind event?
Yeah, I've been very jealous. I see all these fancy people sitting here talking to you. Now I've become your stalker.
Well, actually, if I can tell you a story, when I joined Startup Grind in 2017, Geelong, my community director was like, you need to host Allan. And I'm trying to get him to Startup Grind. No, you're not trying harder. You need to try harder and get him at Startup Grind. So I'm actually very grateful that you actually accepted our invitation.
Thank you for inviting me.
Cool. So this is a question we ask all our guests at Startup Grind. We want to know who Allan is and how your upbringing was like before we dive into Raiz Corp and all the other things that you're doing.
And then we all go home.
And then we'll go home.
I grew up in Durban, two entrepreneurial parents. My parents made umbrellas, garden umbrellas, beach umbrellas, rain umbrellas, and I was groomed to take over the family business. So from a little boy, I was groomed to take over that business, and then went to university, and for reasons I won't go into, I took a detour, and I landed up on the streets in Durban. It wasn't drugs, because I know. I landed up sleeping on the streets. I lost my car, my job, my apartment, and I landed up working for a friend of mine in the clothing retail store, and tried to turn that business around. I failed a few times, and eventually I did a promotion, which got me into turned the business around. And I got into the newspaper in Durban, and Dollar Billionaire saw the article and phoned me up, and I'm really praising this. Phoned me up, I didn't know who he was, and said, I've read the article, and I'm sending a driver to pick you up. I got picked up in a black BMW with tinted windows, off to a place called Pref.
You're not scared of your safety. I mean, this wasn't Uber days, right?
No, but I was bigger than him. That guy in the car was smaller than me. I did check that out.
Okay.
And then he asked me a whole bunch of questions, and I always say that if you ever go to war, don't take me with you, because if they catch me, I'm going to be the guy who say they're over there, they're over there. I was so nervous. He was asking all these questions. And then he said, how much do you earn? So I said, me, I earn 3,500 rand net. I knew about tax. Thought I was very clever. So he said, I'll tell you what, I'll pay you 4,500 rand net. You sit on the beach, come up with any business you like, and I'll back you. And I went, cuckoo guy. I thought, who does that? So I didn't take him seriously. Came back. My mate John says to me, what was that about? I said, some crazy guy. And I forgot all about it until 2 weeks later we called again, and he said, what are you still doing there? And then I said, well, you couldn't be serious. And he said, I couldn't be more serious. So now I had to come up with a business. So what business? I'm 23, going on 24 years old. What business? Now I have to find a business. So now, remember, he said, sit on the beach, come up with any business you like. So I'm running up and down Durban beachfront. I got a six-pack. I'm tanned. I'm in the best shape ever, but I got no damn business. And then I come running across and I see some Nando's rubbish on Durban beachfront. And then I see Steers rubbish on Durban beachfront. I go, this is a sign from God. Okay, what are the chances of rubbish being on Durban beachfront. Okay, I mean, and like all entrepreneurs, you know, you're always looking for signs from God to tell you you're on the right path, right? So this was it. But what happened was Robbie Brosen had just listed Nando's, and it was very much in the press, and it obviously caught. So now it was fast food. So let me check, because I know about business, you know. Yeah, so I thought I need to be passionate about fast food. So yeah, I'm passionate about fast food, especially all the places that are open after 2 a.m. that absorb alcohol. Yes, tick. Okay, I need a niche. So I hamburgers, not taken, pizzas taken, and I went through it and eventually came up with sausage and hot dogs, mom and pop operations, and I've got it. It's called the New York Sausage Factory, the United Tastes of America. Oh, jeez. That's a clever name. So off I go, and this is the whole idea. You take a banger, English banger, you put it in a bun, you wrap it in the New York Times, you put an English flag on it, you call that an English. You take a Frankfurter, you wrap it in, and same, put a German flag on, that's a German. And in Italian inside, I had 12 different types of hot dogs. I go to my mentor and say, "Da-da, this is the big idea." He said, "That's nice, but you have to go and speak to Negative Ned." All right?
What is that?
Negative Ned is in every entrepreneur story. These are all the people who tell you why things can't be done. You know, sometimes you're married to these people. You know, okay. But my Negative Ned happened to be an accountant, very special accountant. Are there any accountants? Yeah. You embarrassed? Are you an accountant? You're also an accountant. So why that was important for me is because I failed accounts twice. I failed accounts twice, and the second time there's a thing called a balance sheet, apparently, I'm told. And I was 100,000 rand out. It's supposed to balance. Mine was 100,000 rand out. I wrote to the lecturer, "You keep 50,000, I'll keep 50,000, and the bastard still failed me." So why this was important is because Negative Ned was an accountant, so he knew about shit. He knew about business. He knew about accounts, and he said this thing will never work. And like a spoiled kid, I went off to my mentor and I said, "I know that Negative Ned said this, but I promise you I will make this work." Well, I just knew, I just knew. And I opened my first store on the 22nd of October that year, and I did 580 Rand and 20 cents revenue. And the reason why I remember that is because it was the most amount of revenue I did in that business. So Negative Ned was right. And I worked 7 days a week, from breakfast trade, evening trade. I was not going to let that guy win. So every time I went to bed, there he was going, "I told you so, And then when I was brushing my teeth in the morning, there he was in the mirror. "I told you."
But what do you think went wrong? Or what do you think you were not doing right in the business?
So I'll tell you, I'll finish the story and it's in there. Okay, it's going to be quick now. So I finally have to admit that I have failed. Now just think about what I had. I had private education, I had a mentor, I had funding, and I still failed. Okay, so to go and admit that, it's a very hard thing to admit. So off I go to my mentor's place, and now I have to say quite dramatically, "I failed, but if it takes me the rest of my life, I'll pay you back." And I stand up to leave, and he goes, "Sit down." And I crap myself. I sit down. And he goes, "Did I back you or did I back the business?" And I said, "You backed me." He said, "For as long as if you walk out, you have failed. But for as long as you don't walk out now, the business has failed, and they're not the same thing. What would you do if you had to do it again?" So I said, "I changed the menu, the venue, the pricing, etc. I did everything wrong." So that's the answer. I did everything wrong. So he said, "This time I'll back you again, but this time I'm not going to give you money. I'm going to give you people. I'm going to give you Negative Ned. Okay, he's going to be your finance person. He owned an ad agency in Durban, the CEO, that's my marketing person, and he surrounded me with 5 people who became my wisdom, my experience, my human capital. And the second time, I tried to open at the Pavilion Shopping Centre. For those of you who know Durban, it was a 52 square meter little store. Hot dog the sausage is 80 grams. We were selling 3 to 3.5 tons of sausages a month out of this 52 square meter store. So that was my foray into entrepreneurship. And what Raiz Corp is today is a paid forward for what happened to me, because that's what we do, is that we give people a second chance. And if somebody believed in me, and that's what we do, is believe in other people.
I want to get into the story of Raiz Corp, and you told me about it earlier when I was telling you the name of my business. And I always say this, everyone knows my business is called Rebirth, from my name. And I know some people look at it like, there we go again, self-obsessed, you're using your name as your business. How did you come up with the name? Take me through to the story again, because I really find it quite interesting.
So I sold that business, and then I went into the vehicle security business. I was very good at it, but hated it. And so 7 years into that business, I was selling tracking systems. So you were selling fear. You know how many cars are stolen every month? It's that kind of story. But I had a small little ad agency called Marathon Sanders, who was my supplier, and they were battling every month. And so I said, what's going on, guys? So they explained, they were battling. So I said, okay, I'll help you I'll help to see what I can do to help turn you around. So that we can't pay you. I said, don't worry. So we worked on weekends and in evenings, and about 3-4 months later, on a Saturday at a Wimpy, these two hands leaned forward and said, welcome, partner. They just made profit, and so it was 100%. There were 3 of us. And they said, we're giving you 33.3% equity. So I said, okay, well, thank you. And then I moved up to Joburg with that same business, not with the advertising, with the vehicle security. And then another ad agency heard what I was doing, what I'd done in Durban. So they said to me, so we heard what you did with Marathon Sanders. How does it work? So I said, it's very simple. If I turn you around, I get 33.3%. So that was the very well thought through model, right? So now these 2 agencies, and I loved working with them, and I felt alive with them, and I was hating what I was doing, and I decided to resign. I was 34, 3 months before I got married, and my shareholders agreement precluded me from selling for 2 years, so it was a decision to become poor again. But I belonged to a card school, poker school. And now I'm unemployed, 3 months before I'm getting married, and I'm playing in this card school. And the one guy there, his name's Ronnie. He worked for the other Ronnie from Internet Solutions, and they were launching Internetics. Internetics was the first internet conference here in South Africa, and the first 2 speakers were Clem Santa and Paul Harris from Israel. And he said, Ronnie, Apteka is driving me mad. We have to get people. We haven't got enough people. Can you guys come? So I said, I'll come. So he said, no, you can't come. It's only for corporate guys, so you can't come. I said, no. I said, I'll come. He said, no, but you're unemployed. You can't come. This is for corporates. It's not for you. I said, piss off, I'm coming. Anyway, I arrived. So the next morning, I arrived there, and got the registration, and the lady says, what's your name? I said, Allan Raiz. She says, name of company. And as I was about to speak, the other Ronnie comes running up to me and says, what are you doing here? I said, I told you I'm coming. So she says, sir, what is the name of your company? And he says, please say something corporate. So I said, Raiz Corp. And so I walked around with a badge just like this the whole day going, we're a group of companies, in the advertising space. A 1-man band and a 2-man band, So that's how the name came about.
That's amazing. And the foundation of Raiz Corp, was it for what is doing now, which is nurturing entrepreneurs, or was it something else then?
So it's a very big, complicated machine today, but it's got different divisions. So we've got the incubation side. I hate the word incubation, by the way. We call it prosperation, because incubation connotes weakness and illness. And our businesses are prosperous and millionaires and successful, and that's the mindset that we want. Yeah. So, by the way, that's trademarked. You can't use it. Okay. So, so, so we've got the incubation side. We've got about 500 businesses that we look after, as you mentioned in my intro. We've had about 12,500 businesses come through us in the last 19 years. Then we've got a VC side, or what we call curated equity, and there we take equity stakes in businesses. In a specific niche, we look for certain types of business and we back entrepreneurs. And we
What kind of businesses are those?
so we've got something like this called the Business Exchange. We've got a business called Ruby Blue, which is a funeral home policy management software. 6.5 million policies run on our software. 750 funeral homes run on our software. 28 million lives are on our software. So, but these we've got 700 businesses in our TVE. We've got 750 funeral homes. We've got an accounting business that has got small businesses. So we back businesses who have small businesses as their clients.
Oh, okay.
And Marathon Science. That's the one I can't. That's the one thing I can't. I don't. It's my firstborn. They're still there 19 years later, and yeah, we're still partners today. So we're involved in a whole bunch of businesses like that, and then we've got another division where we've got schools. So a school right now. So we own Radley in Randburg High School, primary and pre-primary. We've just bought another school, and we're about to do a third school, and we put entrepreneurship into the curriculum. So that's the thing. Then we've got an Africa division where we operate in Angola, Tanzania, and now Zimbabwe. And we'll be moving further north on the continent. And then a few other divisions, which, but so now it's, and we've got rural operations, and we've got peri-urban, and it's a lot of stuff goes on. Yeah. A lot of entrepreneurs,
Yeah, that's super amazing. Do we have any questions? I want to get into your book, How to Lose the Business Plan. But before that, I just want to see if we have a question from the audience, and then I'll dive on to the other questions. Any questions around Raiz Corp? As no? No question? So you're not going to come back later and ask me questions about Raiz Corp, ne? Okay, cool.
I won't mention his name, and he's in Johannesburg right now. He doesn't live here anymore, but he's here right now, and I was with him on Sunday. What is today now? I was with him on Sunday. Yeah. And I still go to him for, to me, I've got 5 different types of mentors, he is a strategic mentor. For me, when I'm thinking about, he's not an operational mentor. I've got an operational mentor, but he's more strategic. So when I'm thinking about a play, and for somebody to ask me the right questions, the tough questions back, he's the guy I go to. So he's actually lives overseas, and I never mention his name, ever. Because I don't like to name drop, but it just, yeah. He's a prominent business person, but he doesn't live in the country anymore.
Do you offer mentorship?
I do. I work with about 6 random entrepreneurs a year. I've got this thing called BITM, which is Billionaires in the Making, and it's a collection of various people who've I don't know.
You don't need to be a millionaire because it's billionaires in the making.
Billionaires in the making. Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
I make no bones about the fact that it's about building wealth, but not for wealth's sake. Yeah. Okay, it's a different mindset, because the irony is I have no relationship with a watch or a fancy shirt, or if I've got a 9-year-old car. It's not about that. To me,
a quick one around that as well. In one of the interviews that you did, you said success is not much about money. In your opinion, what is it about? Or in your view, what is it about?
Sure. So before I answer that, let me just try and talk about the concept of success and succeeding versus successful. So to me, the concept of success is a verb. It's not an end point. You're in the process of succeeding, right? And so therefore, because of the law of impermanence, you know, today I'm successful, tomorrow I'm not. Tomorrow I'm more successful, the next day I'm not. So what does that mean? That today what I'm saying is true because you perceive me to be successful, and then tomorrow you read in the newspaper, Allan Raiz loses everything, so does everything I say not mean anything? And people attribute too much to the concept of, he's successful or she's successful, etc. So I've got a very, I've got an interesting relationship with the word success, okay? But to me, what it means to me is that I'm a very visual person, and I see what I want, and it's very strong, and there's a huge dissonance between where I am and that place. So I will never be successful because every time I move closer to that place, it keeps moving, right? Yes. But I feel successful if I achieve, if I look back a year and I look now and I'm better. So I've got a sort of a philosophy which is in Raiz called BBTY, be better than yesterday. And for as long as I'm better than I was yesterday in some element of my life, I'm succeeding. So that's my only relationship with success, is that there's some level of improvement, there's some level of build, there's some level of growth, evolution. That to me is what it is.
That's amazing. Wow. Okay, so now your book. There's 2 books that are actually available, and you're going to be signing some of them later on, right? I'm more interested about the one where you say how to lose the business plan.
Lose the business plan, yeah.
Why? Isn't it what structures a business in the early stages of a business? Or is there an alternative rather to the business plan? So
the book says lose the business plan. It says it doesn't say don't do the business plan. Effectively it says do it and then lose it. Because it has no relevance. For me, the concept, first of all, you have to understand where business plans come from, and then you have to understand the reality. So everyone here, if you want to engage with a bank or a VC, they require a document. And they all require a J-curve. There's always a J-curve. Year 1, I need lots of money. Year 2, I need even more money. And then year 3, I'm going to make lots and lots of money. And so you just draw this J. You put your company name in Calibri font 14, on the top there. And then in the body of the business plan, it's somewhere in the body you write that you need 2 million rand to build a warehouse. Why do you need the warehouse? For all the cash. Because you don't trust the bank with that much money. They all look the same. And yet 96% of businesses fail. So that document does not represent reality. And every single bank and every single financial institution requires it. And yet we know that it's not a proxy for success. There's something else. So if you look at the history of business plans, they were derived, or they were actually created in the late 60s by the banking system in America. So the banking system in America used to very much be, I know you Beth, I know your mother, I know your father, I know you come for me for money, you were naughty, I know you, right? Yeah. So I'm going to give you money or not, and there was a relationship and there of trust. Yeah. And then as the banks started to spread, they required some sort of templatized version of how to determine whether I could do that. Yeah. So they went to the universities, and the universities came up, or one university came up with the concept of a business plan, which is effectively, if you think about it, a tick box template which they use then to then score and use. Today it's used in terms of weight. The thicker it is, the better it is. And then when entrepreneurs come to me and they say to me, can you invest in my business? And then I say, how do you make money? And they say, well, it's in there. So I go, yeah, but so I'd say, so where? There. And they've got this business plan. It's still warm from that photostat warmth, still warm. And I take that and I tear it in half in front of them, and the eyes are like that. And they go, okay, right now it's not in there. Now tell me, how do you make money? And they can't tell you. So to me, if it doesn't live here and it doesn't live here, I don't care what's on that document. It means absolutely nothing. So the value of the document is it allows you, as you said, quite rightly said, to think through things. But the reality is, when you invest in somebody, it's about the ability to navigate obstacles, which will always happen in every business. Every one of you who's an entrepreneur knows that whatever was in the business plan is not equal reality. And it's about, you'll see opportunity on the way. So it's more about your opportunity eyes, your ability to navigate, to hustle, to move, to operate, That to me is a better determinant of success than this document. And so to me, in our in our equity side, when entrepreneurs come to us, nowhere do we ask for a business plan, ever.
So how do you then determine that? What is it based on? The conversation that you have with the entrepreneur, or is it your word against them, theirs? Or
So there are three areas. I had this conversation with one of your ladies here before she asked me the question.
Hope she didn't bug
So
you.
you look at we look at three areas.
Yeah.
So number one is the entrepreneur. Do I feel that they have got what it takes? We've got a very tough selection process for entrepreneurs to come through. They have to get through that. And that is about what we believe is their blue heart, their ability to stand up again and again and again. There's 27 factors we look for, and it's a very complex thing that we built over 19 years, and we look for the individual. So that's number one and the most important. Number two, in terms of the business, is does it stack up? So what we want to do, it's not that we don't look at an Excel spreadsheet or don't want to know how the numbers run. It's not that. It's just that the fact that we don't believe anything. Because if you believe that second document, it's just that if this worked, these are just hypotheses about the future. So if we hypothesize under these assumptions, and you'll test it and it'll go through. So I'm more interested in actually the model than what's your plan around marketing and what's your plan around this and what's the competitive environment. Yes, I want you to know that, but that's going to be changing all the time. So that's the second piece. And the third piece is how you do the deal. So you can do, as I said to the lady, you can have a really great entrepreneur with a great business and do a really, really shitty deal. You can do a great deal with a really terrible entrepreneur with a great business. All three have to line up. So it's very important that you get those three elements. And most people are just obsessed about this document in the middle. They don't obsess about the entrepreneur. And some of them don't even obsess about the deal. The deals are quite vanilla.
Oh, cool. Do we have any question? Yes, Monday. Monday actually runs Startup Grind Pretoria. I want to just get you on that.
Hi, great chat. Just a quick question. In terms of the entrepreneurs that you take into your company, there's that minimum 10,000 that they need to make as sales on a monthly basis. How's that going, and why specifically do you want people that are making 10,000 rand monthly for at least 3 months consecutively before they apply to be in any of your programs?
So in the way that we look at entrepreneurs, if you know me, you'll know I'll never give you a straight answer. So, okay. So if you look at entrepreneurs, you know we look at them across what we call an enterprise development continuum. And enterprise development is not the South African term around BE. It's what it means, developing enterprises. So there's a line which is revenue. There's pre-revenue and post-revenue. So pre-revenue is pre-incubation, and we actually don't require that 10,000 Rand for 6 months in there. But post-revenue, revenue is a proxy for a couple of things, and the 6 months is a proxy for other things. So 6 months is that you stuck at it, and for 6 months there was somebody who bought your bullshit, right? So you can sell. There's some reference to a market that will buy. Okay, so these are proxies. So you'll notice that there was never a requirement for profitability, because that we will come in. But we want to know that you'll push through, because how many of you came up with an idea in the shower in the morning, and by the time you got to work, it was already lost? Your husband, wife, like you all go through that. So the concept of nascency in entrepreneurship is a huge problem. 99.9% of ideas recurring and don't see the light of day. They die in the journey towards actually precipitating into businesses. So, and the major factor is about the entrepreneur, about their ability to actually actualize that, push through all the negative feedback that they will hear on the way. So that 10,000 Rand is actually just a proxy. It's just a basic proxy for push through, that you push through, that somebody's prepared to buy what you're selling and that you can sell. That's really what it is.
Just as a follow-up question to that, the transition from being an employee to being an entrepreneur, at what point does one call themselves an entrepreneur without having to go back, or without having to go back into being an employee, etc.?
Oh, I did warn you. I'm never going to answer straightforward. Okay, so let's just start off with the word entrepreneur.
Yeah.
There is no such thing. So if you look at what they call the psychological typology of an entrepreneur, in other words, that A plus B plus C plus D equals entrepreneur. There is no set of A plus B plus C plus D that equals an entrepreneur. Okay, this is an important thing that I'm saying, because entrepreneurs come from wealthy backgrounds, from poor backgrounds. They're extroverts, they're introverts. They're good at accounting, they're bad at accounting. They're tall, they're short, they're black, they're white, they're male, they're female. You can't say that there is this equals an entrepreneur. And why I say this in trying to answer you here is because many entrepreneurs attribute themselves to some way that the media or so-called gurus say that this is what an entrepreneur should look like. And they say, well, I don't look like him or her, therefore I'm not. I'm saying get rid of that. You're entrepreneurial or not, or not at a certain time. The second thing, which if we have time for it later, is that entrepreneurs are not born nor made. They precipitate when 5 conditions are present. So if those are not present for you right now, it doesn't mean you're not entrepreneurial. You're just not entrepreneurial now. Okay. You could be when you're 80. You could never be. You could have been when you're 24. But there have to be conditions precedent for you to precipitate as an entrepreneur. Okay. So now coming back to your question, because I like to talk like that. So when you say you move from employment to entrepreneurship, to me, you could be an intrapreneur within a corporate, within another environment, which is a mindset, okay? And that's great, and that works, and that's a function of your relationship with risk. And in fact, you're very comfortable, so you've got this flair, you've got this blue heart, but you've got a relationship with risk, which is not quite there. And that's one of the conditions that need. So you're 45, you've got 2 kids in private school, you've got a bond, and that doesn't work for you. So you can't precipitate at that. Because that's not one of the conditions that's present, right? Yeah. Whereas if you were 23 like I was, or you're 60, then that's more likely that you'll have a higher tolerance for risk. I know you can't judge somebody for not moving from one to the other. Those conditions have to be present. However, the last point on this is that I get a lot of people in environments where they're sitting in corporates, and I speak a lot at corporates. The banks, however, with this business plan story, they only ever invite me once. I just don't know why. But they all come to you and they go, I've got this idea, and it's when should I jump? At every entrepreneur, they have to jump. There's a point of risk in it that you've just got to jump. That same moment when you jump into a pool, you don't know if it's cold or it's warm, you've got to make that jump. Yeah. And it always requires that. Yeah.
Wow. Do we have any questions? Okay, let's take this one first.
I was just curious, you mentioned the 5 conditions. What are they?
Yeah. All right, phone your wife and tell you're going to be late. Okay. Okay, so the 5 conditions are like this. So let me start off by saying where this comes from. About 6 years ago, a piece of research comes out of the USA which shows that the most successful first-time entrepreneurs are 60 years and older. The most successful, lowest failure rate, first-time entrepreneurs are 60 years and older. Now that's quite a lovely statement thing, but then you think about it. So think about that statement. They weren't born entrepreneurs. They're 60, right? First time. And they weren't made that way because they were working at IBM for the last 30 years. So they were neither born nor made. Okay, so it's a wrong question. So the question is that what else is happening? And they're precipitating. And there are 5 conditions that need, in my opinion, need to be present from my experience for every entrepreneur to be present. And are you an entrepreneur? You're dabbling. Okay, this is a good one. Who's an entrepreneur here? You one? You one? You're great. So you're all going to test me, and I don't know. I feel like a magician because I'm going to feel. Do I know you people? I don't know you. Okay, I know him. That I do. I admit I know him. Okay, I don't know him, but that's all, that's it. So So number one is that they have to see an opportunity or crisis happens or both. So every one of the entrepreneurs here had to have perceived an opportunity. Is that right? Did any one of you start off just started without seeing an opportunity, or crisis, death, divorce, moved, or both? Did any of you not? No, so that's all present, right? So that has to be there. So why this is important, just as a little aside, is because when government goes with this bullshit policy around the fact that the notion that entrepreneurs are 2-minute noodles, on Friday you're an unemployed youth and on Monday you're an entrepreneur, it cannot happen because you never saw the opportunity. You can't force it into somebody, okay? And so that's number one. Number two, you have to have a tolerance for pain. And this we've spoken about earlier. You know, you come out of the shower, you say, honey, I've got this idea. She goes, cuck idea, go to work. You go to work, you tell your mate, I've got this idea. So and they say, this cuck idea, go back to work. And then eventually you pluck up the courage and you go out into the market and you design your minimal viable product, your MVP, because that's what you were told, your MVP, and you know what it even means. And so you got this MVP, and now you go to market and they say it's a cuck. You go to the bank managers, it's a cuck idea. I'm not financing it. And then you go to finally you pluck up that you go to market and you say I've got this thing, and they go it's a cuck idea. I want it in green. Okay, so you get this rejection all along. So this tolerance for pain has to be present for an entrepreneur to move from nascency into a trading entrepreneur. Most entrepreneurs don't have that at all stages of their life. So there's times when I don't know you, you've been more confident than other times. There are times where you're feeling, that you can push through things. So that has to be present when you are at the time. You see the opportunity, you've got that. The third thing is your tolerance for risk. So who's the youngest person here? Probably there. Anela, 18. How old are you? How old are you? 21. Right. So you're 21 years old. I'm 52. Have you got kids? Okay. Have you got a bond on a house, a big house in Sandton? No. Okay. So your non-kids are not at private school. They're not. Okay. All right. So what's your name? Koliswa. So Koliswa now, if she sees the opportunity, she's got the same tolerance for pain that I do. Her tolerance for risk is actually higher than mine because I've got the bond, I've got the 2 kids in private school, etc. So coming back to the 60-year-old, okay, kids are out of home, bond is probably paid off, the tolerance for risk is as high as hers, okay, but it's not. So there's a curve in there. And you have to, and everyone's curve is different and contextual. That's why this question about when and this bullshit notion that somehow entrepreneurs are better than other people. But in the 60s, these were the people who couldn't get jobs, So that's the tolerance for risk. The fourth thing is your belief in your ability to muster resources. Not your ability to muster resources, your belief in your ability to muster resources. Yeah. That has to be present in every entrepreneur. So you've heard this saying from entrepreneurs where they say, if I knew then what I knew now, what I know now, I wouldn't have done it. Yeah. Have you ever heard people say that? Yeah. Right. What is that about? At the time when they saw the opportunity, at the time that they took the risk, at that point they believed they could, I'll find the money, find the people, I'll get the markets. And you see these in the entrepreneurial stories, that we watch on TV, etc., that they don't actually have what it takes. They just believe they'll put it together. Now sometimes you just don't have that belief. So it's not whether you do or don't, because most of us really don't. Yes. It's that we believe we will. Yes. That's the important factor. So that's number 4. And the last thing is your ability to learn and iterate. And here I'm going to be the magician again. So all the entrepreneurs, so any one of you here, you started your business 6 months ago, 6 years ago, it doesn't matter when you started. What that product was or that service was then on day one and what it is today is different. It cannot be the same. You can't be here if it doesn't change, okay? So those entrepreneurs that say that, no, that's not me, I don't believe them, okay? But that product or service has to change because you have to read the feedback. So your ability to learn and then iterate, apply that in the business is crucial. And once again, contextually, sometimes we like when you were a young man, you have a less of ability to be teachable because you know everything. Then when you're slightly older and you're a little bit more, like life has given you a couple of claps, right? So you're more teachable. So you have to, that has to be present as well. So those are the 5 conditions. Now you can phone your wife and say you. Okay. Right.
Right. And now let's talk about fear as a blessing, or failure rather as a blessing.
Yeah. So failure is a interesting. So failure is this. So I don't want to be cliched, right, about failure, because everyone says failure is a blessing. It is where we learn from. But you have to understand when it is, or to me, it's the one level below that. And the level below that is that if failure is effectively feedback from the environment, it's telling you that this is not working. But a lot of pioneers, where they're right, are failing. So what does it mean? That they're wrong? They're right. The market just doesn't know. So it's trying to understand the nuance of that feedback. And as entrepreneurs, all the entrepreneurs in the room know the actual battle in their mind that they have, where they're going out there and there's other people saying that you're wrong, and in your mind you're saying, but they don't really understand, right? All right? And then you're a pioneer, you're starting something new, and the market doesn't understand it, but the market's giving you feedback, but you know something else. And it's this wrestle between these two places where, in order to survive, the market needs to understand what you're doing, and you need to compromise somewhat so the market will actually be able to actually buy it, consume it, and yet you want to be purist because you know that it's a compromise at some level. So is that wrong? Is that right? So this failure is far more nuanced than just this binary view that we have in Western society about, oh, it's a failure, success. And I try to get away from that. But it's about understanding the nuance in failure, that you can fail and actually be wrong, and you can fail and actually be right. It's just how you're interpreting that. But to me, it's in a process. And when you understand the law of impermanence, I'm successful right now. I failed right now. Tomorrow I might be successful. Tomorrow I might be a failure. It's impermanent. So it just is about what you are gaining from either the success or the failure. But the way it works is that we tend to listen a lot more when we fail. It hurts, it wakes us up. It's that clap that wakes you up. But I'm pushed further to understand it better.
Yeah. Sure. Wow. Okay. Do you still have your question? Okay.
So, Allan, so I have a little daughter. She's 5 years old, and she's on her way to going to conventional schooling, and I've been there. So what I fear is that spirit that she has, they probably won't nurture it. I say to her, what are you going to become one day? And I want to hear doctor, lawyer, whatever. And she says to me, Dad, I'm going to be a princess. So I worry that that sort of spirit will be broken. I've been there. And so my question really to you is, what is an ideal schooling system? Because I heard that you have some schools and starting some schools and things. So what is an ideal schooling system? Because I can see the problem, but I don't quite know the solution. And I fear that, in 2 years, 3 years' time, my daughter will start to say, Dad, I'm going to be an accountant or something, and she's not going to be that princess anymore. It's not that I fear that she's not going to be a princess, it's just that creativity is going to be broken. And so for me, I think it's a problem. What's your comment around that?
This education space is a very emotive space, and and you got on it both ends of the spectrum, where you got very much the conformist, and I'm going to put in inverted commas, really inverted commas, realists that say, well, my kid has to pass matric, otherwise she's not going to get into university, because if she doesn't get into university, then she doesn't get this, etc. So there's a predetermined path. And so academics is that, and it's supposed to be a proxy for a whole bunch of things. On the other side, you have people saying that exactly that we need to nurture kids who have the ability to learn and unlearn. That's the skill of the future. It's not about knowledge, it's about the ability to learn and unlearn quickly and relearn. That's the cycle. And to me, why I've gone into so let me just be like a politician. It depends on every child what suits them. So a sporty kid will suit a more sporty environment. A creative kid will flourish more in a more creative environment, and let's call it a logical. That kind of kid will more in a structured environment. Maybe that's not even true as well. But the point is that there is a different environments for different kids that suit different kids. But when you in the schooling system, the way our schooling system is designed is for average. So in the thing, you have 30 or 40 kids in a class, and they have to say, well, it has to meet the mean down the center. So the very clever kids sort of will go a little bit slow for them, and the not so clever kids right now, they have to try harder. Okay, and then we'll grade them. So it works on the concept of a mean. And we're all individuals, and we all operate at different levels. So to give you an example of me, is that I had, I think the highest mark I got in matric was a C. I got lots of D's and E's. I scraped it to university, but came top of my class in honors, like way above. I switched on much later. So like, I promise you the teachers still like they think I bought that, because they can't believe that kid is that kid, you know. It's not the same kid. So we also precipitate at different parts in our journey. So for me, the ideal environment is one that nurtures the individual. But that's easy to say and great on our marketing brochure, but hard to do. You can't have, in a class of 30, you can't have like 30 different approaches for 30 different kids. Yeah. So our view in our school, for example, is that if you're a sporty kid, don't come to Radley. Really don't. We're not. And I base that on the fact that there are far better schools at sport. Okay. And in fact, there's a piece of research called the deviance route to entrepreneurship that shows if you play team sport like soccer, hockey, rugby, etc., you're less likely to be an entrepreneur. And individual sports like tennis, you are. Athletics, you are. So we said, well, that's good. We found that tick. You know that's why. But the truth is, we don't have fields, right? But the point is that we want to stand for a certain type of kid, a narrow band than those 30 across 30, where it resonates. And in there, we've created a whole bunch of different principles that we teach the kids. So for example, opportunity eyes. So let me explain this one to you. I think you'll like this. I'm sitting at a boardroom table with my partner, my business partner. I've got 2 employees sitting here and the client sitting there, right? So there's the client there, right? So the client's busy talking. I look to Colin, my partner, and I go, which means, in English, did you hear that? And he goes, I heard that. Haha, all excited. Okay, the client carries on speaking. I do, and Colin goes, you got that? Oh, I got that. Oh, that's so exciting, right? And we're having this whole eye-to-eye, like whole conversation. Yeah. And the client leaves, and we're both so excited, and our 2 employees are not. They don't even know what happened. Yeah. Okay. So how is it that in the same information, 2 people see opportunity and 2 people don't? Now, that is about what we call the marinade. We were marinated in that kind of context. They weren't. So for us, it's about creating a context where you can marinate kids in certain ways of thinking. And creative ways of thinking are incredibly important as well. So there's a whole bunch of these things that we try and embed in the maths, in the English, in the Afrikaans, in the Zulu, etc. I don't know how else to answer, because I don't know your kid. But I will call her Princess.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, my question is nothing to do with that. What advice would you give a 26-year-old not at the beach sitting, but she just resigned her job, moved to a new city? She has a business that's been going well, but because she had a full-time job, and a business, so it looked like she had a lot of money. But when she resigned her full-time job and moved to a new city, she actually realized she doesn't have money. But she decided that she wants to go full-time on her business. And she has no idea what she's doing because obviously she doesn't have a background in terms of business. Background at home, everyone was working, everyone believes in working, but she believes in this business. And now she's lost in a city and like, okay, but I really want to do this business. So what advice would you give?
Are you just speaking for a friend? All right. All right. So for me, it's I mean, these are like sort of top of the mountain guru kind of answers. I can't give that to you. This is your journey. All I can say to you is this, is that if you trust the journey, if you trust that this is your journey, because for me, I went and did the same thing. I've jumped twice, okay? Twice, and both out of very, very comfortable positions into the most dire positions possible. So I've been through this twice in my life, and I honestly don't want to go through it the third time because I don't want to glorify it because it's cuck, okay? But in that journey, there was always this thing that I'm on, that I follow this journey, and you know, I got offered 2 opportunities, and I went. I don't know. This guy said to me, so it was a French guy. I don't know how I even met this guy. And I landed up in this house. I just moved to Joburg. I don't even know what suburb, but it was cold, and I didn't know why the guy didn't have a fireplace. Couldn't remember why I was there. But I met him, and he said, "What's going on in your life?" And I said, "I have to make a choice now." And he made me stand up. He said, "Close your eyes." And I thought, oh, all right, I just got to listen harder. And he said, "Tell me about the first business, and tell me about the second business." And then as he spoke, and he said, "Okay, the first business." So I said, "Well, why did you say that?" He said, "Because when you were speaking about it, you were leaning forward, and the other one you were leaning back. So your body was saying where to go." Now, whether that's bullshit or not, I went that route, okay? Okay? I went that route, and that took me to another thing, and then to another thing, and another journey. But I was so conscious the whole time that I was in a movie which happened to be about my life, not like your friend's life, but happened to be about, and these were the people I would meet, and my life had been peppered with all these coincidences that just, you know, somehow managed to get me to wherever I needed to be. But there was a deep trust in me, and like I trusted myself in that, and I trusted my work ethic, and I trusted the universe, whatever, that it would work out. And with that trust, without that trust, I don't think you can get through. You have to keep pushing hard, working hard. It's not like it's just going to come to you, and you have to be very conscious of each juncture in your life as it's meant to be, and where do you have to go from here. So tonight might be, you know, one of the listed companies on the JSE, I won't mention names because your work came from a guy sitting next to another guy on a plane. It's a listed business today, and a guy who literally had a very unprofitable business sat next to another guy on a plane, and today he's the CEO, okay, of a listed business because of who he sat next to on a plane. But that sounds, oh, he's so lucky. He's not lucky. He was conscious of the opportunity and did something about it. So my only advice to you is to be conscious and act. Conscious, act, trust. Conscious, act, trust.
Sorry, please don't kill me. Just as a follow-up question to that, what structural processes should new founders be mindful of? As a new business, there's obviously some very basic structures that one must put in their businesses, just to try and mitigate failure there and there, you know.
I think I know what you're saying. So I'm process driven. I'm very process driven. You cannot scale a business without that. And I've always been process driven around how do I make this happen without me. So my obsession is always for me to create something and me not to be important in it. Even right now, my big drive is that I've had X amount of reports, and I'm trying to get less and less and less. I was saying to one of the guests earlier that I'm purging. I'm even purging roles in the business of importance. I want to be unimportant. I want to be as unimportant. I want to be less important now than I was a year ago. So when you put in all these processes or structures, the more important thing. That's why I just don't want to give you like a textbook answer. The more important thing is your relationship with these things, and that your ego doesn't want you to be important in whatever structure you put in, that you're important in that. The moment your ego allows you to release that to somebody else, then you can move on and you can create hierarchy in your business and layers for you to move on. And I've watched entrepreneurs who want to control everything. So you can have process, but they control everything. And that's fine to control, but you can control through control measures, reports. You don't have to do. So you'll hear entrepreneurs saying that if you want to do something properly, you've got to do it yourself. My clients only want to see me. If you want to do something properly, like all these things, I'm worried my staff are going to steal my clients or steal my IP, blah, blah, blah. That is small. You don't see, Bill Gates going, if you want to do something properly, you've got to do it yourself. You don't like that. So you've got to understand they've released, they've let go. And they've created the structure and let it go and embed it and delegated, not abdicated. And that's the next thing, is when you create all this process and this structure, very often what happens is people then abdicate. They go, oh, this new guy comes in and goes, oh yeah, you do, this is what you do. That's abdication. Delegation is, this is your role, this is how you do it, let me watch you, no, okay, then slowly let it go, and then you're in. But that's delegation, that's proper delegation. Abdication is, welcome to Raiz Corp, this is your job. I don't know what that guy's name is, but he's sitting next to you, ask him, cheers, see you later, and then you mess up and you say, this guy's terrible. Terrible. He wasn't, you just didn't delegate. So it doesn't matter what you put in, it's also your relationship with that. Other questions?
Yeah, on the concept of failure, perhaps this is a philosophical question. Do you think that failure is necessary for any endeavor that you go in?
It is a philosophical question. I think my knee-jerk response is yes. But as I just pondered it, I don't think it's necessary, because I think I also know people who succeeded first shot and become very successful, and failure in terms of, let's call it grand failure, wasn't part of that journey. It was minute failures or small failures here, and so they're dealing, but they came up with a brilliant idea, they went into the market loved it, and they were super successful. Okay, that happens. It's rare, but it happens. Most success happens with quite a flat line before, with an exponential graph later. The problem with individuals, particularly young people, myself included when I was young, is that you're impatient around that. You're watching all your friends with the fancy cars, so they're always shiny, and their central locking always works. Mine never did. Okay, and you watch, you're on this journey, and they seem to be doing well. So you see yourself as a failure, relatively speaking, but it might not be failure, okay? Because you're having a relative path, and then you have a statement like Donnie Gordon from Liberty, who turns around and says, it took me 27 years to become an overnight success. Because then the exponential line kicks in, and then you start to go up, and they are still going on this line, and you cross through them. And now you, in inverted commas, successful. So the way that we interpret success and failure very often is an external thing, where it's a relative to other people in our circle. And so you might see that you might interpret that as failure. You could be one of those guys who does it that way. But to this lady's friend's point, okay, it's about your journey. It's about your relationship. That's far more important than anything else.
Allan, hi. I just wanted to ask if you, in your experience with all the businesses you've seen, have you seen any relationship between businesses that are paying forward or charitable with money or time, that over time, or that things come back to them? Not that they're doing it for the purpose of having things coming back to them, but have you seen more success coming through the act of giving?
So once again, the knee-jerk response is to say yes, but it'll be also a very much a false positive, because I'm dying to say, I mean, I see the yarmulke on your head. I understand your let's call it your moral structure, or I think I do. So here I'm going to give you a couple of answers. So you get people who are, for all intents and purposes, terrible people, okay, who become incredibly successful. Yeah. So they weren't giving; they were terrible. So that worked, okay. Then you get people who were those people and then started giving back later, okay, and that works. And then you got people who gave and then were successful, and then you got people who gave and were unsuccessful. So very often what we do is, when we try and reinforce our view of the world, we seek out examples of that reinforce our worldview, and they highlight them. And we blind to all the other examples there, and you see, if you give, you're successful. So if you want to, just also a quick aside, Warren Buffett's partner is a guy called Charlie Munger. Charlie Munger's got a guy called Shane Parrish who writes the thing called the Farnham Report. Every Sunday sends it out, and they're very much around about cold data, about unemotional data, that humans they act irrationally, and then there's this concept of what's real data and what's not. So the way that I'm interpreting now, I'm reading, is I've become far more aware of what my weakness is, to try and reinforce my worldview and to try and be more open. So in a long-winded way, I'm saying I have no evidence to see that. I think it's true for some and not true for some. So I think I need to be in politics. I feel like I can't answer a question straight, but I don't think it's true.
Leah?
So I just want to know, as a business incubator, what you think...
Prosperator.
What you think is your biggest factor that contributes to the success of your startup?
Of a startup?
Yes.
The entrepreneur. Next. No, seriously, it's the entrepreneur. Yeah. That is the key success factor, and so you back the jockey, not the horse. Yeah. And to me, that's the number one thing. It's way more, because I'd rather back a great entrepreneur with a really crappy business idea than a terrible entrepreneur with a great business idea. That's cliched, but that's the number one factor, and that's why I get upset when around these business plans, because they mean nothing. It's got nothing. What about the individual? It's probably that document is probably written by some third party who knows nothing about that business anyway.
Hello. So I usually hear people saying that you need to start on one thing, focus on it, and see how it works. And again, they say that you can never know what you're good at if you don't try different things. So I want to know the importance of looking at opportunities around you and then jumping on opportunities. And also, is it that you need to only look at opportunities that are probably linked to whatever that you're doing, or you can just hop in every opportunity that you see?
Sure. All right. There's a couple of things in there. So let me just start off by saying this. What I've seen with entrepreneurs is that there's a high correlation between unsuccessful entrepreneurs in multiple businesses. These are the people that go, so what business are you in? And then they pull out their business card and they go, you see, I'm in the event, I do eventing, and then I do tents, and then I do ceilings. So I get the tent and the eventing, I get that connection, right? But how did you get to the ceilings, right? So they say, no, when we were doing an event at the tent, and then I came to this person and I saw and I said, I can do it, right? And so I got into that. And then you say, well, how's the eventing business doing? And they go, my partner stole from me. And then they say, and how's the tent business doing? I'm still waiting for that tender. And then how's the ceiling business doing? It's not so good. I'm suffering. You know. So to me, that is that. But when you at dinner with a friend, Allan's involved with so many business. You know, he's so many businesses. Sorry, I met this guy, and he go, what do you do? I run a conglomerate. I mean, the guy, a conglomerate, he was 25 years old. Yeah, what is it? And then when you understand, it's like, it's not a conglomerate. It's really not a conglomerate. But somehow that the ego wants us to be more is better. And my view, and there are always going to be exceptions, my view is that the sharper the point, the more likely you're going to catch the fish. That it's not about more lines, it's about one. The issue is that as individuals, we have this dilemma between the concept, especially the millennials, which I also don't believe that term, but let's not go there. There's Control Alt Delete. It's just, you know, it's hard. Therefore, the universe is telling me it's wrong. It's bullshit. It's hard. It's just hard because all business is damn hard, and you have to push through the hard to get to the other side. So most of these individuals get it's hard, interpret it as wrong, and start again. And guess what? The number 2 is hard, and then they go to number 3, and they build there's no deep competence. There's no competence in there. So I always say to you, just push through, keep going, and if you iterate within the context, so that which the modern term is to pivot. If you're pivoting, but let me just tell you about pivoting, because pivoting has become the new, like, entrepreneurial porn. Because this is a true story. I got involved in a business. I put in quite a substantial amount of money. The business pivoted from an insurance product business on week 1 to a sports betting business on week 8. And every week it pivoted. And he goes, we have to pivot. I read the market wrong, so I have to. I was like, no, you've got to push through. You can't every time you're not getting the feedback. You have to understand what. And I pulled from that business. I got that one wrong, but I got my money back. But that's what I'm saying, that my view is be sharp, push through, iterate, navigate that mental struggle between hard and what's I'm right and they're wrong and they're right and I'm wrong. That's a hard thing to navigate, but you've got to get through that, and then you come to the other side, and then you come and you sit here, and everyone thinks that and in the meantime you're sitting here, and meantime you're going through the same shit. It's just like in a different context. Because I'm also like, now, am I right about going to schools or not?
Hi.
There you are. They're counting.
There we go.
Okay.
I just want to sort of follow up on the question that she asked about, you said that you back the jockey and not the horse. And you mentioned that you have your criteria for an entrepreneur, but what is the criteria for an entrepreneur that you actually back?
So this is IP. This is a lot of IP here, but I'll leak some out. So we've got 27, as I mentioned before, we've got 27 criteria around that we look for. But I'm going to give you some of the fun ones, okay? So I'm going to give you some weird ones. And so ability to learn, flexibility, blah, blah, blah. Here's a couple that you probably didn't think of. Father issues. If you've got a father issue, okay, if your father was absent either emotionally or physically from you, okay, then you can come right to the front, okay, right? If your mother was overdoting and you've got father issues, just don't even bother, just come in, right? You're just perfect, you're right, and there's 2 psychologists, Collins and Moore, that show unequivocally individuals with father issues are far more likely to be successful entrepreneurs. So that's one interesting one, right? I thought I'd throw out something that you haven't heard before. Then the second one is, let's call it internal locus of control. So if you want to join Raiz Corp, if any of you are going to apply, one of the things in there that we're going to sneak in there is a thing called an ILC test, internal locus of control test. Maybe now, if I see you, please don't cheat. We'll catch you on the other side, right? Okay. So in the internal locus of control thing, so the view is it's a 0 to 20 scale, right? And so external locus of control means I think the world controls me, I'm fatalistic, whatever happens. So that's close from 0 to 10. That's external locus of control. 10 to 20 is I'm in control. 20 is I'm in complete control. So our view in the beginning, when we started this, was that 20 is better than 19, is better than 18, etc. And like 0 is the worst. And so our view was that we would take anything from 12 to 20. But then we started taking these entrepreneurs and they'd come in and they were getting 19s and 20s and they were failing. And we're going like, doesn't make sense. This person was in control. They got a 19 or a 20 out of 20 and they were failing. And then we worked out is that person thought they were in such control that when shit did happen, they didn't know how to deal with it because you can't control everything. So they were like deers in a headlight. So internal locus of control is a sweet spot in our scoring between 12 and 16. 17 is already too rigid, and 11 is too external. So that's our sweet spot. And then we look for a whole host of other factors in these 27 factors in there. But what was also interesting is in partnerships, is how partnerships, the chemistry in partnerships. Because if the two of you are in partnership, there has to be a certain combined relationship that so if I look at my partnership, I've got a partner now for 15 years in the business, even longer. We are complete opposites to one another. He's an accountant, by the way. He's one of you. So he's tall and thin. I won't say what I am, but so he's completely he's completely opposite to me. I'm more comfortable in this situation. He wouldn't be caught dead being here. He'd be in the corner there. So we're completely different, and in combination we work. So it's not it's always about the individual. Sometimes it's about the team. And the last point on that is that 3, to me, is the maximum. That you go 1 is great, 2 is better, 3 is worse, 4 is terrible. It starts to splint. I'm not saying it won't work, but you've got a huge amount of complexity in partnerships with more than 3 people. So to me, partnerships with 2 are great. 1 is good, 2 is great, 3 is okay, 4 is I'm not interested. I'm not. It's not for me. So we look for all those kind of things, and there's a lot more. But I wanted to give you value.
Great. Well, can we take one last question before we wrap up?
I'm actually just writing an article on this. In fact, I've just done it'll come out, just done the voice thing, not the vlog, the podcast. There we are. See, I'm a modern man. I've just done a podcast now which recorded this on exactly this question, so it's quite fresh. So I don't want to go into it long because I know it's late. But here's the second book, which is called What to Do When You Want to Give Up. It's actually written around a true story about an amalgam of the different entrepreneurs that I've had the pleasure of working with, where they've been in those dire situations and have pushed through. Myself, I've done it as well and have learned a lot of lessons. Here's the bottom line. For as long as you can ask different questions and get different answers, carry on. For as long as you can't get different questions, you cannot create a new question, and you can't find a new answer to that question, you've got to stop. Now, very often, if you look at now the statistics around entrepreneurship, I said to you that 96% of businesses will fail. If you look at the research that's below that, there's a research firm called Dun & Bradstreet, which shows that 90% of those that give up voluntarily. In other words, no one put them into liquidation. They wake up one morning and they say, "Kanimeni," like, I just can't do it anymore, it's too hard. And it's a function of people telling them to get a job, it's a function of them, the cash flow, the pressure, the responsibility, blah, 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 add to the list. So what I do with entrepreneurs is I work with them in terms of what we call shift questions. Is we teach them how to ask themselves different questions. And let me give you an example of this. So one of my favorites is if you had to only operate your business from 9 or 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning. The whole world operated exactly the same, but you were operating from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. How would your business be different? So you'd say, well, your first reaction was, we'd go and solve it. It couldn't work because my clients are this and they're there, and then you tell me all the logical stuff. Then I'd say, okay, carry on. And then you'd push through that. And then you'd say, well, I'd have to go and find clients in a different time zone, or I'd have to make sure I delegate more. And you'd give a whole bunch of other things. And you'd go on and you'd go on and you'd go on. And then I'd say, so why can't you do that now? Okay. And you go, oh, and the light bulb goes on. The other question that I love is if you were, God forbid, paraplegic, how would your life, how would you run your business differently? Okay. So that's quite a hectic question to ask. And by the way, I work with QASA, which is the Quadriplegic Association of South Africa, and I asked them, if you're able-bodied, how would you? Like, I asked them the opposite. So, and then they go, and you say, well, I would delegate more, and some say I'd feel more empowered. I would I don't know, you get these bizarre kind of answers to that, right? Barring the and I try and get through all the logical, I'd have a ramp and all that kind of thing. You have to get through all the logical bullshit first, and then you move to the next level. And then the question is, how does that then take you into a new way of thinking about your current situation? So when you teach entrepreneurs to think in that way, they come in from a different angle and a different vista and open up a new window of possibility in their business. And sometimes that is all they need. So I did this with a guy in Cape Town who was a big guy. He had a panel beating business. And it was a tough thing because you don't understand. You just don't understand my business. You cannot, I can't. And this guy is a big guy. And I pushed him and I pushed him. And then halfway through the day, he stood up in I thought like he got a shock. Like he just stood up and he said, I got it. He says, I'm going to pick up my clients' cars at 6 p.m. from their homes. I'll work on and I'll deliver it back in the morning. Okay, that was the idea. Like it was a literal translation. Today, his business, because I still correspond with him, his business is more than quadrupled in size since that, and he's got a 24-hour shift. He does both, but his business was bankrupt when he came to me. Now it's quadrupled the size, and he tells me it's profitable. I haven't seen the numbers, but that was asking a different question. So that to me is persistence. To me is about asking different questions.
Wow. Super interesting. I just wish we could just go on and on and on. But my last question before I let you go is, what is your cry for South African entrepreneurs?
What is my cry?
Yeah.
Did you say my cry?
I did say your cry,
My
yes.
cry for South African entrepreneurs. You know, I'm involved in entrepreneurship in a number of contexts. And in each context, whether it's South Africa or Zimbabwe now, or Tanzania, or Angola, or in the UK, or I've just been to Kenya last week, all the entrepreneurs think God is picking on them. Okay? Like, you don't understand. Like in Kenya, you just don't understand. We've got corruption. I go, and then you don't understand. You know, we got our currency devalues. And then you just don't understand this, and we got all these and we got. And you go like and everywhere you go, and ironically, even in the US, you hear the same kinds of things, which is not was not my view. I was quite shocked. In the UK, I was quite shocked. So my cry to entrepreneurs is to realize that they are just, it's normal, and that God is not picking on us. We've got a unique set of opportunities here that are so exciting. That opportunity comes from shift. And shift is happening constantly here, more here than in other environments. There is so much opportunity. We are currently having a record moment now in all our divisions. Like, that's not happening in other places. And it's happening if you look for it and you are positive and you seek it and you appreciate it and you recognize it and then you take action and do something about it. Yeah. But without those, you know, you'll just go, oh, it's corruption. Yeah. And there is.
Yeah. Wow.
Or there's not.
Wow.
Your choice.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
having a conversation with us. This is going to be available online, and please, guys, do share it on your social platforms. Yes, I'm gonna get to that. And I just want to wish you all the best with everything that you're going to be getting involved in, and keep doing an amazing job that you're doing for entrepreneurs. If there's literally anything that we can help at Startup Grind, we're more than happy to get involved. And yeah, thanks for everything. Thanks for your time. Good. So now we're gonna find out who has been giving us lots of love on social media. Greg Johnson. Who's that? Is he even here? Oh my God! Yay! He's actually our regular at Startup Grind. So the whole year you can come to Startup Grind for free. So guys, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for supporting us, and hope to see you next month. Our events happen every last Tuesday of the month, and the information is going to be available online, www.startupgrind.com/Johannesburg. And like I said earlier on, communicate with me. If there's anything that you need, if there's anything that you want us to work together on, send me an email, send inquiry on over on our website, and I will reply as soon as I can, and we'll take it from them. Even if you've got speakers that you want to recommend, send me an email. If you're connected to that speaker, I'm more than happy to also take it one step further. So yeah, have a good evening. Thanks.